Now, in the past year, South Africa's railway infrastructure has been looted on an industrial scale during some of the strictest COVID-19 lockdowns in the world. Hundreds of kilometers of track and station facilities have been pilfered and sold for scrap. And the looting is continuing in spite of plans by the Passenger Rail Agency of South Africa to turn the situation around. Nickolaus Bauer joins us live now from Florida Station. Nickolaus, a very good afternoon to you. What is the state of South Africa's rail services, and how has that state and degradation actually impacted on passengers and their use of this infrastructure?
Well, it's plain for me to see, at least here on the ground. I'm about 400 meters from the Florida Station on the line that runs from Randfontein to the center of Johannesburg Park Station, and it's in complete disrepair. This is in spite of the Passenger Rail Agency of South Africa announcing about a month ago that the vandalism has cost in the region of 4 billion rand since the railway infrastructure here in not only Gauteng but in the Western Cape, in the province of KwaZulu-Natal as well, were just absolutely stripped bare and pilfered during the initial stages of lockdown. And this looting has continued. Throughout the afternoon we're going to visit various railway stations where the vandalism and looting is particularly severe. But I thought this might be a good way for us to start to illustrate that this particular stretch of line has now become nothing but a pedestrian foot throughfare, with many people heading through to the Florida Central Business District to do their shopping and do their business for the day. And really it is in a shocking, absolutely shocking state. Just to the right of us here, if our camera lady Barbara can follow me, you can see that people are in such a desperate situation they've even set up lodgings next to the disused railway station. It's the disused railway line itself. I caught up with a transport economist earlier today, Mike Schussler, to talk about the impact that this has on the economy, and he started off by telling us that this is particularly felt by the poorest of the poor, passengers that would usually use rail but are now forced to use more expensive modes of transport. Let's listen to what he had to say.
When rail doesn't work and people do not arrive at work on time because the railway lines aren't working, it impacts productivity. The people making clothes in the Cape Town cannot get their workers there on time, and it therefore makes it much more difficult for them to maintain their contracts, to get their clients satisfied, and it does have a very big impact there too. The other thing is that we must realize is that with so many people using taxis and it being more expensive, it means that people have less money to save or to do anything else with. In other words, they're spending their own money inefficiently, and that hurts them and the economy.
I could hear, Nickolaus, at the tail end of that, him speaking about the impact on the economy. What has that been?
Well, we need to move beyond the strictly passenger lines that this feeds, right? Like I said, we're on a line running from Randfontein. If you carried on about 15-20 kilometers down this particular line itself, you end up at the Park Station. Incidentally, this is actually one of the lines that PRASA is not going to focus on with their 57 billion rand turnaround that they announced about a month ago as well. They're going to be focusing on returning lines like Davidson to Johannesburg, Mabopane to Pretoria, and Naledi to Johannesburg back to full service. But like I said, this is not only affecting passengers, this is also affecting freight, and a critical node in the South African economy. Another thing that Mike Schussler said, the transport economist, was that this is costing percentage points of our GDP every single year. Our inability to try and get our products in our commodity-driven economy to end customers, and also indeed out for export, severely inhibits the ability for the country to grow. Let's listen to what he had to say about the knock-on effect on the economy with the railways not working to full efficiency.
On the Eastern Highveld, we see a lot of lorries with coal, and that in a sense tells you it's a very inefficient system. It's affecting your price of electricity. It's impacting our ability to deliver electricity. and it tells you that rail has failed in one of its most important functions that it has for the South African economy.
A part of the reasons, Nickolaus, for the degradation that we're seeing in the infrastructure for rail is the lack of patrol and the lack of any sort of enforcement as far as, security guards are concerned. What is the latest regarding that?
Well, at this point in time, the Passenger Rail Agency says that part of their turnaround strategy is to actually secure the stations where this looting and vandalism is taking place. But the stations that we visited, certainly today and indeed a month ago when we started doing this story, there's absolutely nobody ensuring that the little that is left is actually being looked after. There's no security to speak of. We're visiting another railway station later on this afternoon, Delmore, where actual railway line is continuing to be pilfered on a day-to-day basis in spite of promises by PRASA to try and ensure that there will be security. There will be not only security officers, but indeed also attempts to try and secure the stations digitally. So in other words, to have drones and also closed-circuit television monitoring the stations to ensure that the looting and vandalism is brought to a halt. But the actual situation on the ground tells a completely different picture. And while the Passenger Rail Agency of South Africa may have these 57 billion rand plans in the offing to try and turn the situation around, well, we're not seeing any sort of action at this point in time.
And the one big question, Nickolaus, as I let you go this afternoon, is did we even have to find ourselves in this particular place to begin with? But thank you very much for that update.